Okay, does everyone have that? It's just the disclosure doc we signed a while ago. Panel, CSU,
Not yet.
okay, just let me know.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, cool, I'll start a second.
Infinix one is SRM, current profit-driven geoengineering, pushed by the ability to relate cancer disaster. Its technocratic selection includes fossil capital and touch and deals capital with gravity over equal situations and gain guarantees extinction from equal collapse and great power where the fossil sequence is able to develop structures, engineering, and question needs enthusiastically. Those with the elements of the dynamics of the disease and mostly requires to see the institutions of source for the capital group fatal and capital and the president of the system as a victim keeping their sheets over its economic the existing capital and the capital regime would be rolled out of the strong there's new species, specifically Elon Musk and Brazil pursue solar radiation management like aerosol injections or collaborating with which stabilizes the system, which regularly causes drastic damage to the tails. And solving the climate crisis, also team does injections is collaborating with whether it's massive massive drops in major carbon emission and major research on the possible to that visually affect carbon emission. It's all about disaster radiation between after your generate a series of absolute specification and the first of the with our we can build a of services in the SRM causes war from intentional opposition to scalp this because 24 years of our level to monitor from just about this is also the survival. SRM expansion is happening now and will rapidly accelerate as wholly unlikely that only government regulations solve this problem. 24 that is being restricted. The students will also request that the list of business secondary recently partly the G companies, but plans to check our regret the available of societies with the non city activities which use government and the civil against SRM and not EPA can prevent authorities there isn't any rule advantage to reform it. Current CO2 levels guarantee ecological overshoot. If it's complete system collapse, reducing renewables in the coming future emissions is no longer enough to seize the means of geoengineering to remove carbon from the atmosphere. It's not 24. Current CO2 is not limited in the utility increasing current frequencies levels faster than everything community. It's not mentioned until the river is trying to find the muscle to feed and helping the future. Some most of this capacity to reverse the will eventually attach her. And explore for our purpose is we want to do it's not the competition to result in effects possible. It's used to over a longer time than teaching us over rather than the goals of the universe already. But it's already I heard the rest of the original confidence is that the future education of the rules of behavior. It is no longer the simple being of the some choices things with the disclosures to us. It's I suspect the future next year is with no even independent local crisis climate change is an ongoing structural effective and long racial and class side of the country with the this long levels of quality straight dimension as responsibilities nominations next year and side of the customer by pieces of the effect using the motivation water service that comes with people who are wealthy as these actions move our brothers with the release and time of the institution also seems anything you can find the public energy transition so there's these have to short the mission process journey of the culture parcel and either 80% of people who love homes are because black and different sources are because because underwater the authority of the less authorities level surprising terms hurricane I would like to know about the resources and countries are still here the representing the resources specific management is reducing GHGs understanding climate change is essential does not require understanding as binary or linear exception understanding is ongoing about the risk the very existence of community this can't be beer not three Is climate change an example of this already question like the communities super governments and these kinds of most problems and academic success and then the legal security is also not available to members of the national security global system because actual regarding the unity in the society and the government respect the country's technology and significant also check out also the country's questions it's important climate change outweighs our effects guarantee elimination of condition possibility for all policy adjustments necessarily precludes individual vectors of justice in the political precautionary principle and enables effective moral and social decision making without allowing systemic harms nor being vulnerable to blocks in this particular 24. Our current path will be that we want to have those because I don't want to use the see more estimate in for see some is not that much you see the question and also should be accurate to the actually so also we know I prefer to use option those trader it's actually just that the ready the local country how for them study the various those in all those just rights democracy disability climate change this necessity engineering every time figure matters rejection times millions of deaths and suffering to be killed 18 global warming is achieved couple change in the zone of nature, which one of all purposes of the class formula system security change factor and listen to cars that taking it just also just from the calculated concern for the eligible to be the change also or just order much using some cases possible the removal of the removal the county concern is also the factors of the people that you know and then the share of the user that are going to start to see the customer and the person that all the integration over because community that is really like that geoengineering is not a moral hazard any longer and the luxury to choose this cars only when the our help is the tax sector level of geoengineering and government for journalists regulations law are keeping sure to carbon roof for the national TCS and then disperse within the necessary scale and speed drop full industry in the context of we need solvency, the plan, the not great input energy policy decarbonization. In the United States, which one drastically increases subsidies for carbon dioxide reduction methods, which is carbon. Currently, this is supposed to be some long-term life cycle business because ambitions do not rely on carbon fossil fuels and not assistance fossil possible production to chemical agreement. Both direct subsidies for all carbon dioxide reduction methods, which are not these criteria 3 license regulated. Or developing system scale these carbon dioxide through carbonization in the United States and 4 permit solar radiation management. 5 permit carbon capture mechanism, storage mechanism, the carbon storage mechanism, the resulting carbon or flowing the use of the force of carbon through independent monitoring. The plan sees the means of geoengineering from the capitalist class and steers towards public goods with like democratic collective ownership and contrast to sacred granting goals to the capitalists make feel the team. Let's achieve the goals of the because everybody successful and benefit all the days and how to do like control the organization of the attack the economy, which changes our amazing organization to get the party according to the country also very much had it is role by the culture is social justice officially has capitalism is to see it to the level of the working class people and primary goals and actors but after the capital specifically the plan rejects the current of capture carbon and bonding and instead understands permanency questions the public good and also brings the subject for ACR which is less possible production relies on power and possibilities for bits net more than they currently see costs in this era and 20. It's usually community as economy soldier versus substitute there's no other way to look at those something like that was something using CSU it's actually it's being conversion as like CSU actually is actually reasons using profit direction of the species budget was choose parts of the DAC and whatever one source CSU so figures actually use that's really coming to the actor the CSU policy this is a combination of something very much also but is responsibility of the whole everything else should be injected under the starting permission is here and the no funding made to all process of process because all the structures like process is usually over it's like the plan of seizures disease the level of state Paris central to the question transitions no longer enough to simply imagine what we want to need strategy and tactics kind of this very D22. Transition to the person is from perception is very level, but the is level is level transition to black between the transition to position change comes into copy so there is a contribution to the 2 general accounts as far as level and everything which is in the also couples who is also comes to the ability of plus able to see the right comes to right the time to another area where the people sources evidence association say changes about the using to go to the lower comes to the part of the cars we really should have some situations of those messages and again the instructions are can be what humans have always already engineered their drivers which is engineering several question of if or rather what kinds and how government mass adoption CDRs become if preconditions survival because the current conditions are already causing categorical triggers of the categorical rejection CDR is Nazis will cancel to this party. It's good. History is part of this multiple level of very
That is marked at attack peaks since.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
You got it, Daniel.
¿Cómo me das energía?
¿Cómo?
¿Cómo me das energía?
En este debate queremos discutir un plan.
Huh?
Like in this debate, we think that talking about the plan is a way to.
What?
Yo no sé qué estás diciendo, no sabes.
Sure. I want to talk about the what they see. Are you socialist?
I personally do identify as a socialist, yes.
Conley?
Yeah, I've debated over time. I
So,
think I'm like
okay.
somewhere between. I'm
Cool.
Close to
So
the
you will
socialist
defend
landscape.
your understanding of socialism to the two are, right?
defend our understanding of socialism.
Yeah.
Which we are. We'll defend.
Is
the
your
underst-
socialism conditional?
We'll defend our understanding of our socialist relationship to the economy as per the 1AC.
Okay, perfect. So you defend it. Are any of the planks on the plan text conditional?
No.
No, so you'll go for all of them.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Question I want to ask, post 1AC, what does the United States look like?
We think the United States looks like a world in which the United States federal government has increased subsidies for carbon dioxide reduction methods, has prohibited the bad forms of geoengineering we criticize, has prohibited solar radiation management.
Okay, so what does the economy look like? What's definitive?
Well, our argument is not that the plan causes a socialist economy. Our argument is that our analysis through historical materialism explains why the plan is a good idea.
What, so there's no socialist?
Well,
economy
so
supposed to
the
fund it?
Wakefield evidence is
How do you
really
solve the
good here.
capitalism offense?
No, none of the impacts of the 1AC are connected to
But
capitalism.
a lot of you, a lot of your
That's
1AC
important.
evidence
This
is about,
part-
wait, a lot of
this
your
part's
1AC
really
evidence is
important.
about, a lot of your 1AC evidence is about why capitalism is the root cause of climate change, and the plan solves it. So what do you mean you
So
don't trade
this
it?
is the.
Sounds like it's zeros to
No,
add.
the important part of the answer to this question is the Wakefield evidence says that the plan in our form of geoengineering is a necessary step and part of a broader
What is
socialist
the
paradigm.
bright line to get there? Like if the app just defends you and
We
you're
think
not
that-
socially,
We think
not
that we
wait,
need
wait,
to,
wait,
we
let me
think
finish
that
my
we need to
question.
defend that the
Okay,
app is a
please stop
desirable
talking over me.
departure
Can
from
I
the
finish
status
my
quo.
question? Can you please stop talking over me? Can I finish my question? Is that fine? Are you good?
Yeah, I mean, you were also talking over me. so-
Well, it's my process. I'm supposed to ask you a question.
Go ahead,
and
ask
you
your
finish.
next question.
So my next question is, if it's true that the app is not immediately transition into social economy, what is the threshold for solving this overarching capitalism causing extinction?
So
We do
don't
not-
think
we do not
that
think
any
we've
of the
said-
impacts of the 1AC say capitalism inevitably causes extinction. We think we have said SRM causes extinction and a failure to remove carbon from the atmosphere causes extinction. The plan
So
solves
what
it.
is the benefit of socialism?
Well, again, our argument is not that we cause socialism, but that.
But that's not my answer.
Our
What is the
argument is
benefit?
that publicly owned carbon dioxide
But does
removal
climate-
is
does
treated
climate
as a
change-
public good.
Does climate
is
change
that-
happen because of capitalism?
We think capitalism is certainly an explanation of why.
Okay, then that seems to be the
causes
internal
are
link to like
multifaceted,
extinction.
and that the plan is a desirable departure from the status quo because it removes carbon from the atmosphere akin to a public good.
Okay, I'll sum it up. It's going to be one of these.
Is there an overlay case or straight?
Yeah.
Is there now?
Yeah.
Three? Is there enough? Here.
Like, I'm good for right now, but I'm not.
There's an extension cord there, but I think you can probably plug it in there and then reach it if you have that.
Okay, nice.
All right, guys, on top, let me know.
Sorry, can you come on?
Yeah, I still haven't got that.
But yeah, just
Actually, I don't remember it. Since we're done. I still haven't gotten it, but I don't think my Wi-Fi is working.
yeah, it's been acting up lately.
Yeah, it says I'm on guest access, but it's not doing anything.
I mean, I put it on the same one where it says like disclosure, so I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that's the right one.
No, yeah, I just
Yeah.
think I don't have that. I just think I don't have it. So,
Has anyone else gotten it?
Yeah.
It's just us. Yes.
yeah, I'm just trying to rejoin right now. Okay, yeah, I can't get that quick guess now. Let me try my phone hotspot. I got it.
Y'all good?
It still is not downloaded.
Okay, yeah,
I got it. I can stop it if you want.
Try that, yeah. I think it's just might run this one. Okay, it's down.
Okay.
Well, it's still not.
Okay.
Sorry, we're really unsure.
I have it, don't worry. Good.
Yeah.
Panel? Sure. Western society is structured through a process of othering that requires common price of colonial mastery to sacrifice migrant and Jersey, Grandma's 22 othering, leading to common prices needed to sacrifice the liberal colonial responsible for our business, predicament government, government's relation, not mastery, colonial use, letting refugees die, individuals, versus each other, translating warriors, and othering, technology, government, political, ecology, and environment, human, and human transfer, governing migration, justifying sacrifice of the population, for population, common rights, the liquor, the common American companies, the contrary inclusion of the sacrifice of the opposition, always colonial functioning, common injustice, by an African economy that requires emotional business, sustained, hegemonic, active, exchanging upon immigrant communities, 21 facilities continue the working class, neighborhoods of color, immigrants of color, dumped on no more than low income white communities of all lives with their structural forces, racial conflicts, stressing the political process, letting down the emotion around the process, from the top down motor process, teach people not only was view how that operates under across the individual collective levels of the company, emotional liver, feeling, most kind of vision by establishing a settlement application that the emotional change, so many groups dictate, and these emotions to be enacted in the left side of the other community, all emotions over the side of the hierarchy today, as states of human community, culture, peers, such as army, drug use, with the here, immigrants, Mexican, and Muslim TV, social equality. As based on where policy actually become competition between citizens in order to bracket out the migrant political processes, therefore cause procedural affairs and other artifacts become a metaphor for racialized institutions to become a death game for other community people. These 20 policy debates becoming metaphors to the growth of the world, the solid documented numbers, access to political process to ensure, and how can the abuse procedures become metaphors become a tool of decision by the time the liberation occurs with decisions given to the liberation of our position, friends, or equal access to citizen, and fairness to the liberation of right, and documented numbers of your resolution supposed to persuade you, and capitalizing the surveillance, legal traditions, surveillance, makes the court of glory, buying power, and metaphors, with the overall summation, numbers of a climate justice movement occupy a position of violence who truly fails to understand what the climate crisis is, and was need to organize around it. These have it. To universally say humans are extinction is rooted in like an micro sentiment that bureaucratizes itself from racialized threats to maintain imperialism, white supremacy, capital accumulation, religious racial limit. That's what my climate movement say what is say by the climate crisis we need to organize around it. No movements have to be white, Charlene, joy movements that on energy, or gender, classified as greenhouse, alcohol, so patriarchy, enterprise organized with research, 45 philosophers, by parts, MC, by supremacy, the actual feminism is just ad women's approaches about why supremacy is just about getting more black people to organize contribute to this spokesman, our for colleagues we don't have it. Time to argue about social justice. We don't solve climate change. Black lives don't matter. White activists aren't dead. We deal with these and other moves. We're just at 30 policies of Christ regard. No more universalizing stats by the IPCC is any cover down his borders. No other borders, not just the science, climate change, not allowed to ask why climate change is changing control. Basically, what's allowed to ask why climate change reach US border problems and this many immigrants use politics. Any solution must start with controlling the border. No wonder laws of climate activists, my founders will be used by the way. He was climate activists and inside of the sea, power, press, and order, Willem G. and the vice president of the issues of mountains rather than capital of the conspiracy or the single realism or this major doesn't mean that climate activists use or flee from climate change energy. No, not at all. Might be trying better to try to establish relationship thinking with the methodologies to make it public and bring these rights and dialogue with one might be the first step toward building climate movements. And the Abbott is an equal colonial narrative of humanitarianism causes zero policy with the Gonzalez 21 climate system leaders. Abbott is all those victims who need to be versus to a former charity humanitarianism response action. Exhaust race colonial narrative, the north is the savior, ignoring the legacy, slavery, colonialism, post-colonial economic interventions, victims moving forward rather than systemic administration backward and needed rescue humanitarian victims, rights, system, charity, legal is no responsibility, humanitarian measures, now they have to see the version of the line and identity. And yes, came 21 Asian and Latino immigrants receive up at the stars of deportation immigrants aware regulators of this knowledge of employees of power African charter represents representatives the white girls with this energy and line conclusion of industry times to repeat all accountability immigrant actors other principal approach to say repeat this mismatch and this matter through this reveals only criteria hard some of those lines metrics on level race and thresholds and as you count this ideology reproduces anti-migrant sentiment which reinforces support of control and anti-migrant data yes so that's defense in the 19th so the left hand anti-immigration sentiments anti-immigration participant that way near the US managed to win the working classes the section of the removed all the the border control session now this border outside policies on nothing to do with Marxism like United leader now Leonard Klosky and the border controls going center has ever curious and that we should allow capitalists to determine the labor supply to bring the capitalist controlling migration lawyers and national divisions of borders in order to make a working class against its own solution and then to manage migration but the international organization for the liberal is not in question of open borders but more human and effective borders and the what he sees investment in social science makes stations the form of white extinction society that justifies eugenics and white supremacist status quo for black and brown life. 2019 white people contributed to 6% of the U.S. population social sciences as a result. Activists call white extinction society when people could go the way to the short dismiss and treat black and brown life. People such as white fear is a catalyst for public policy where people do not see anything that doesn't happen in one direction. No one directs all of this fear of genetic dominance of white and brown people theory called confirmation dominance over white resistance white people control reproduction white people without it. Change of wars white people control the life of reproduction of people genocide with indigenous people trying to slip here. Americans colonization massacres racial black and brown people not some popular results of reproductive rights many black and brown and many incarcerated pure has a eugenic black hybrid incarceration even never producing a de facto eugenics black economic impression mass incarceration reject. No one is in favor of a micro pessimistic world thinking that challenges ideograph of illegality by commemorating the ghosts of lost career micro bodies something like that. 19 the crossing of the line of pessimistic world thinking the remain micro career no revolution iteration of raising a social response one all over the good and colonies and raising iteration directly questions where is iteration to answer the human micro career now those who little last you love black and brown race are repeatedly serve this iteration as well thinking that the memories of the memory micro in the past and the future they were part of the nations they were part of the giving them evidence that they were denied that have agency the protective visual power that that's collectivity where you're not necessarily materials and tendencies goes we navigating how the colonial living you're looking at or forms of open nationalism and policies we look beyond for the everyday performance markets based on the world make process to address outside immigration seen public ideology with somebody that ourselves in environment actors that grab analysis view executive documents new iterations that is identified with body structures formally demands that we can recreate deal with lots of solutions draw migrant growth making strategies for powerful resilient creative new iterations learn to figure more or less endlessly although the physical sciences you get along the border of Mexico the US we I don't remember you showing you hard that is all over appropriate possibilities daily actors and performances numbers this challenge the original ideograph specifically extinction or geoengineering is the false and constructed epistemic premise that trees, evaders, irrationalized colonies, environmental racism, Pirani, and 19, perpetrators, tree, lovers, suffering, or geometry, this is false premise, or so, no coordination, things, perpetrators, people, the young, suffer, victims of hurricanes, extreme climate suffering is already past her, others may not have heard for years, second, the point of the visual views, the existence of engineering, collectivity, powers operated by the state, acting in the capital such as we did, and not for technologies from the context of political vice and holding, are not geoengineering versus suffering, but about geoengineering versus conditions. So we see, we'll say extinction always, that'll be wrong, the 25, the policy debate, focus on the legislative debate, not power, say, discerning, saying, why the references, colonialist understanding, categorized, rewards, debated, or the team, and because also this arguments, and this modular, it is a market class, less important, and possibly because of genocide, and Mexicans was justified war as part of the season of people safeguard the U.S. border and why did these teams started winning these users serve license to prove argumentation against foreign teams. Arguments was that that it sounds like an we're seeing how coaches such as scholars encourage to celebrate such arguments. I'm not speaking about the injury because we put our bodies on the embrace conferences for activism, they community the interest. I'm not the videos of coaches of my dynamics for the sake all engage racial microgroups to do that. Research is not real because they do not see as valid social scientific studies from normativity, scientific research, coaches of when there is a framework that describing my dynamics videos only in landscape that makes it feel vision of clusters of the auto place activity if you want to center like education or this knowledge is right. People of I cannot give debaters who effectively was a argument. And these people part of the exciting and well-being increased by the liberation solidarity cannot be able to individualize and disagree productive engagement through emotional states. Only debates at the D center. The state-based solutions to socio-political issues can operationalize the base conception for revolution after some of those genome 23 critical debate. Okay, that's fine. No inherency state legislators A Kentucky plus Tennessee Sonka 25 Kentucky longer gauge follows Tennessee advantage during 2024 Kentucky 6 as I 2025 Arizona McDonald and boy 128 and support the bills I'm after during we the people can take with the struggle in Arizona limited to the interest of about geoengineering some of others in the other states here Florida Serrano 218 other after boards from X Y the global one is more here about control of the legislation which now passed two citizens support the wants to see us our backs on those who are no longer visually presented that believe the government is putting chemicals in the atmosphere have RFK ensures a nationwide ban is already Saka two black chemtrails after engineering on the laws as written RFK will not was going to control some of this community has pursued advantage geoengineering driven by the geoengineering already have those trust of the government they see that the treaties in the skies don't understand globally EU scientists actually so the card and even with universal support robot that takes out the line Saka now 25 around researchers believe it will take up 20 years to implement even if there was universal policies for consensus far from the case now presumption voted up presumption that one charm rolls back the plan drill baby drill LNG and drawbacks on and drawbacks on renewal so that to the plan that causes ocean deaths is being funded by the plan which is a CDR that's inserted in blue now environmental racism the average living 23 CSS and structural racism cast rally structural black residents will say social illusion and consequences of clean feels and look at the example of the feels of plan rules and Clinton what transformations residents will views you over pollution are worried about additional emissions nitrogen and organic compounds over government who is going who is doing all the time for the processes our question for liberal defenders is CSU for effect of racialized electromagnetic racially unequal distribution of tax and expert environmental policies reverse qualification turns the apple about 21 common racism ecological restriction common passwords everybody said the state is racism common policies the language expertise numerous concepts for common policies not possible for order of today's solutions common question of misleading the public support for the measure common policies greenhouse gas emissions are not to resolve condition profitability property association social individualization energy creating fossil fuel sources renewable energy creation and policies of emissions does not solve emissions.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. 1 second, I will resume. Okay, there we go. Okay. How do you know that Western society is structured through a process of othering?
Yeah, sure. Just look at the world right now. I mean, I think it's pretty easy. But also denying those things probably fucked up. I don't know why you asked that question, right? So think of like Trump being xenophobic.
Asking that isn't denying it necessarily. It's just
Yeah,
I think it's important that we have an epistemic basis for coming to these kinds of conclusions.
So let's look at the world right now, right? Like Trump is obviously like deporting anybody who like looks like brown or migrant according to like Republican reports.
So,
people are just getting like deported for like the sake of it, like accidentally, and Republicans are all like, oh well, it happened by accident. Now we're just gonna continue supporting it. Dude, I can go like on and on for like probably like 10 minutes.
Do you think this condition is inevitable?
In the status quo right now, it is inevitable because Trump is our president for the next 4 years and definitely screws the app.
Do you think that? Okay, straight.
Does the alternative reject use of the state to ban SRM and capture carbon?
We reject your use of the state because we have made arguments about why you produce anti-migrant sentiment.
What would the alternative use of the state look like?
We don't do this one.
But would the alternative embrace using the state, or is it pessimistic to
Okay, our argument is that we are pessimistic towards state engagement as it is in the status quo. Trump is uniqueness. You can't just like win on legalism is good writ large because the skills you produce don't do fucking shit. Like there are migrants who are just dying and getting shot for trying to engage in legalism. Example, Milo Juarez in Spokane, Washington, tried to like engage in farm workers' rights and then like got fucking deported and is now like in an ICE camp right now.
You see how like
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't give a fuck. They're gonna say extinction outweighs. I don't fucking care.
Loman evidence. It is about Extinction Rebellion and says that particular movement has too many white people. Why is it a good idea?
Well,
So your argument is we should lose.
no. I mean, that's. I guess that's one argument.
What are
But
we putting? Like the Loman evidence says Extinction Rebellion has too many white people. Why is this a critique of the app?
yeah, so we've made arguments about like how things like anti-migrant sentiment reinvigorate things like the climate crisis because, i.e., it creates a form of scapegoating, or we can create like forms of xenophobic ideology that allows us.
Why
This is
this?
justification. Hold on, this is a justification for Trump to go out and say things like immigrants are causing climate chaos, etc., which results in things like severe possibility. But also, this is very. Hold on. This is very, very, very important because the Loman card says we don't have time to argue about social justice. If we don't solve climate change, Black lives don't matter, which we think is indicative of the way you say things like climate change outweighs the violence the one see us done.
That seems to presume that we should do things about climate change.
No, that does not. That our argument is that does not presume. It is the ways in which hold on. That our argument is that you use extinction as a justification to mask xenophobic ideologies, so y'all get to just like read a plan while like migrants are still fucking dying.
Okay. The similar question. The Stenson evidence is a critique of particular leftist movements that were anti-immigrant. Why is this descriptive of the app?
Yeah, because we think that there, one, is no check within your socialist movements. We think it will be rather vague about it, but also like Dean's in the PSL. Like we'll make arguments about why that is bad.
10.
Yep. Yeah, I have Wi-Fi.
Do you want to?
Could I take tech time? Is that possible?
Yeah.
I don't have no internet right now. I'm trying to just connect me, I guess. Am I the only one who's having this Wi-Fi problem on your laptop?
Oh no, it's been really bad for me.
It comes in this.
That's why it took me so long to get the
Yeah, I think when it's like at too far, it's like.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm good now.
Okay.
those out loud, did you do what I asked you to do? Okay, what's up? Sorry, I'm just spilling out some.
It was sent, the orders, the case, and the K.
Okay.
That might be cool.
When you say case, are you going straight down?
Yeah, there'll be an overview of the straight down. Yeah. Panel? Yes. Okay, CSU is good? Yeah. Alright. Let's do it. Profit-driven desperate processes issues coming down evil bus faces and all liquidity capitalists has will do everything possible to keep the current order attempting climate change that means resource rate aerosols in the atmosphere disguised in an attempt to slow the rate of warming and collapse food systems, direct the water cycle and start global wars while failing to meet our current ecological movement. The plan solves it. Bans SRO, which uses leverage to take power from a billionaire sweating with the atmosphere. If issue is warming, climate change causes extinction, scientific consensus, current CO2 levels guarantee cascading, interlocking impacts like extreme temperatures, weather events, food shortages, water scarcity, conflict, and more than Tim and Steinberger. It comes prior because it threatens political catastrophe and makes material scarcity so extreme that justice is impossible. Explicit impact from dropped by the 1 in C, that's Antigua, and it produces disproportionate impacts in the global south, that's McCarthy. Drop that produces a moral obligation for the global north to act, that's Wakefield. Solving warming is a prerequisite to every other preventing and before just requires material conditions to be such that communities that have specific voice politically actually climate change structure actions to reduce magnitude as far as we are able to. Now, there's no inherency argument. They would need to read a card for all 50 states in order to win it. So far, they're only up to 4 winning. That some states are banning SRM does not mean all of them are. So obviously, the app is still inherent. Citizen support does not matter. No card says that it'll be successful in getting a ban. And the Sanka evidence just says 20% of the citizenry believe that the government is putting chemicals in the atmosphere, but that 50% don't know, which proves there's not even citizen consensus. RFK won't do it. I don't understand what the screenshot is about, and none of it says it's going to happen now or is predictive. And the fact that it hasn't already happened in the status quo means that app is inherent. Global stuff feels the U.S. is key because otherwise, rogue actors in the United States do SR, which causes the impact. Trump doesn't roll back. We get to durably fiat the plan. It's good to debate about what kinds of influence we want and not be overly constrained by political horizons, which will be on the K. We ban the bad kind of CDR. Ocean capture is bad because it's not reduced total life cycle emissions. The plan explicitly bans that. You can read it in the plain text. We turn the environmental racism turn. It is a critique of carbon capture being used to justify fossil fuel extraction and production that says that is what causes environmental racism. The plan bans that. You are not allowed to use carbon capture in the service of fossil fuel extraction post plan. So this is basically an add-on for the affirmative decay. One interpretation of the debate should be a referendum on whether or not the plan is better or worse than status quo. They must be plan cause unique and harm or present a better and competitive alternative. Prefer one is infinite regress. Resolution is the only non-arbitrary determinant of who wins. Link that unilaterally choose a new self-serving win condition is regressive and unpredictable, especially various because they raise time and capacity. Charm with never really prepare advanced to is research a stable and non-arbitrary win condition is key to competitive and research is the only possible interlinked such information. Individual debates are short and outweighed by other factors about our lives and process of research. Over the course of an entire season, can shape who we are by teaching us about the world, about energy policy, making us more reflexive and epistemic humble. It's key to challenge possible capital growth. 19. The state is not public capital is because distraction was regular orientation was incredible even tremendous power of investors travel out the finance machines will gain more faster by authorities to reality answer can a unified movement that the community provides a short of viewership discussion together political owners by agency through the vehicle of force Spanish is after how after our participation what capacity these has sufficient political capacity. It also makes us better, more reflexive and humble people with the skills to dig into a range of topics both in policy making and organizing. 3 is fiat. It's good. It enables debaters to imagine what kinds of worlds we want to live in, constraining our imaginations to only the things that are immediately in front of us. Locks in the status quo because it feels to turn our attention elsewhere and cause us to be overly deferential political limits back in the seat. To H, representing division, long consolation, division, particular institutions, political theories, synthesis, best work, whatever appeals, one college conviction, councils of actions, using pilots, always votes, and could learn from another president, theory, self-control, citizens, relevant fighters, we can imagine, why would you believe in diversity, interventions, like government, labor, abolishment, divorcing, gender equality, or preservation, tax, persevere, feasibility, we may add theoretical institutional consultancy, do source something knowledge of the workers and evidence, person, creativity, local theory, to consider which terms work, trying out services to avoid results of experiments, also to must spend, miss images of Latin America and the Middle East, saying that because Trump is the president, we should be pessimistic is a thing we are impacting and we need to debate and research and imagine how to recapture state power now more than ever. The right wing will not stop attempting to do so. So the alternative is not solve their offense, but it does see politics to the far right, that all of which is true, and it means that we have framework offense even if the plan's unlikely to show. And all NDT research the undernext of all 4.1 new point tracking like the practice and for futures. Do not take the position the president, new point tracking are staying influence thinking futures can remain fictitious to valuable analysis, low sufficient the future is result of strategic interest, the future stands over the screen. They should prevent and challenge actions. 4 is decision-making, consequentialism, and detail are good. Any alternatives that are unworkable and prevent differentiating better and worse states of the world, which is massive gain to the alternatives facing her. In 20 policy announcement for Wellstate, public evaluates the ROC with office for which 4 pills usually new regulatory evaluation. Choosing one alternative to see better for states and exists trying to achieve what rather than the other. Choices by and purpose to look at the world into one direction. Purpose is entirely positive. Every decision involves trade-offs. Teaching debaters to conduct robust cost-benefit comparison based on consequences makes better people and decision makers in every domain given into before flight or drive degree or work experience. Flexible trade-offs often be faster, more expensive, X can be on long-term, more cost than near-term government officials constantly. We trade-offs with immediately fewer resources to invest on spending and have more of a long-term cost of living to reduce risk and cycle innovation is not one options that are better financial expensive on values and opportunity costs for robust productivities and uniform deliberations. Anything else keeps the left at the margins of politics, runs into moralism. That's politicians and issues by a lot of politics because of data or it's taken most of our which makes us layers of other responsibility because politics makes into responsibility correcting failures of recovery just for us, but doing nothing will make just much more difficult fish to edge of fatalism. Now death outweighs life has intrinsic value. And it's a condition of possibility for all other making ethics, even if death is inevitable. Making that choice for everyone else, nice agency and planetary extinction is qualitatively unique, countless moral and ethical traditions all cohere on that fact point and to make almost all life less than future, all of self-flourishing, beauty, arbitrary, justice, for best of everything. Progress must be just free more thought we create a world flourishing, has the gas imagine this whole possibility for the Irish ones to community. And more than anything, can think it's the work these jobs for an operator, church, foundation, sex, to our events, planetary about we're the most complex to be part of the universe. We are unique versus all specific habits, sort of solution. Even there are reasons to defer the facts of human parts, so I'm going to make sure we continue to exist in future ways, will be very good last specifically on the human they are fond of beings that will face extinction, more specifically suffer death, and disappearance of beings falls really upon us. We turn sacrifice stones by drawing carbon out of the atmosphere, which reduces the material suffering occurring in there. The material economy shapes and determines the affective economy. The affective economy is a superstructure that emerges from the relations of production, cheapest people on top of the production, whereas political social structures valid for the sheet on the base that means to solve what cannot do. Why? Because the market force is not determined by production right out of office. The relation production must be a relationship where people must have the means of production. The better forces to take social statistics. Political forces we learn from just by making party municipal assets, military overthrows. It has been unraveled for we need to do is instill hope. They have accessible goals and power to speak. How the power to change things. It's not the other way around. We don't want Johnson to change this comes to just political economies. Or the sense of production just live on the way around. Political economy means the economy within the growth. What Marx called modes of production, the salty evidence. There's no link to metaphors or meaning making, but they're over focused on discourse is bad and trades out for material analysis, which is indicted above the limit evidence. There's no link to securitizing anti-migrant sentiment and turn the plan. It's key to draw carbon out of the atmosphere, which is key to mitigate conditions for thousands of people being forced from their homes. The low evidence is also a critique of white activist organizing. Obviously, white-only organizations are bad. That's not the app or the part toward which we would build, proven by the 1AC. Our cards discuss the desperate impacts of climate change. It's not just extinction focus that Gonzalez evidence, no eco-colonial narrative or argument. It's not that the North is a savior, but they drop the Wakefield card that because the North has perpetuated climate change at a disproportionate rate, has a moral obligation to draw carbon out of the atmosphere, which impact turns Gonzalez permutation. Do the plan and abolish the border permutation. Do the plan and abolish the notion of citizenship. No link to their critiques of anxiety, critiques of extinction. It's not white anxiety. This will link to an app that only talks about extinction, but can't link to any ignored or footnoted offense because we didn't do that. Extinction traps are good. They mobilize action point and keep people liable. It's not going to be very saying about this. A lot is good. Our concern to the exchange bring down the structure basically for these reasons. Ability to use full environment, doing anything, knowledge should be free fortune, experience, by love, and accomplish that humanity could achieve is means to make the far react to that actually like it's just inevitable. It is one thing to convince people love is good is that our lives are estimated out and which therefore take seriously the third phase, and this is what ER and philosophers do permutation, do both do the plan but be pessimistic about the conditions for migrants. Tons of examples, however, prove that perfect solution is contingent and institutional engagement works, which is the impact term implemented boss in 20 HR 44 737 made living without politics and crime bosses 70 the immigrant advocacy I know salaries is crushed at 100,000 secure victory signs of the bossing from bossing for labor which moves up and down action pushing lunch which tries to build this media as markets to produce desk wings which are going to maintain the struggling towards somewhat way to protect social costs supplier being Joe guarantee not allowing children access to schools which has anti-immigrant should have some core challenges streamers getting stated from the state level nations regarding election recognition to return which the woman to create DACA as this far been protected in the courts and communication hard harness the state in order to promote justice for migrants. This is in line with the plan's political imaginary of seizing state power and is offense against the alternative because they reject it. Lord, into the group of has the integration documents, USA, that's for July videos, the other application very much directed to small migrants. To bring this up, I like to actually directly to the West Bank by Buckets and Democratic other elements of the integration scholarshiply. Red language is sent to field courts, and influence immigration policy, the rights and constitution for reverse citizens to words, unconstitutional limitations services for unauthorized immigrants. The Tarani evidence says we can't prevent geoengineering because of capitalist interests. The plan has a mechanism to solve that, and that means that debating about the plan is good. It is good to teach young people how to go about solving the capitalist status quo. That was above anything else is super fatalist. There's no link to the Andrade evidence saying that we should debate about that the plan is cause and desirable. Is not the same thing as saying that the genocide of Mexicans is justified for Western progress. You reject conflation of those things and have a high bar. If there are microaggressions that occur in this debate, we obviously care a ton about that and should talk about it, but they have not yet said that anything of that kind has occurred. If they did, we'd be happy to discuss it, but until then, the Andrade evidence is not linked to us or anything that we've done in this debate. Yeah.
I want to start with this tag is requiring perfection keeps the left at the margins of politics. It says moralism lets politicians avoid looking at political reality square in the face. And then the bottom at the limit evidence, you're we have a moral obligation. Bruh, why isn't this a double turn?
What we've proposed a direct course of action that's able to solve the impacts outlined in
But
the
you said
LDC.
it's a moral obligation.
Well, yeah, more. I mean, it's possible for there to be moral obligations for things. The runciman evidence, though, is a critique of indicting or finding small imperfections in particular strategies and viewing that as a reason to eschew the strategy altogether, even if the consequences would be net beneficial. So Runciman is a defense of consequentialism. The moral obligation that Wakefield speaks about is the consequentialist argument.
Okay. I want to ask about this argument on framework, obviously researching about energy policy. What do you think about Black and Brown K debaters who talk about KFs on the app and the neg and have method debates about why the topic and resolution is bad? Do you think that they're having valuable discussions?
Yeah, absolutely. And we think
then,
that there's
why is it a unique
we think that there's a role for that in our model, but in order to access the best benefits of that, we think that debates should center on desirability of a plan. If the 1AC chooses to present a plan, if the 1AC chooses not to present a plan, then they're that doesn't apply. But if the 1AC presents a proof of the resolution, we think that the negative should rejoin the plan presented.
Okay.
That model is good, but it captures a lot of the upsides of your model because you're right, if some debaters on the app don't want to defend the resolution, that's
beyond
not
that evidence, you said that there's no evidence of microaggressions right now. I'll give you a scenario. Say, for example, we win that socialism is anti-migrant, increases anti-migrant sentiment, which we will. Do you think that warming outweighs that?
Do you think that warming outweighs
Yes or no?
that?
Yeah. Yes or no question?
Well, I don't think you're going to win that socialism necessarily produces
I hypothetically, right? Yes
but
or no
also,
question.
we have made a broader claim that consequentialism is good.
Well,
that the amount of suffering and harm
I know, but
produced by ongoing warming
can
is
you
worse
just,
than
Connie, can you just answer the
Yeah,
question?
I just did.
Is
Yes,
it yeah?
we think
No, I
consequential-
asked you to say yes or no.
I said yes, that consequentialism
Oh,
is
okay,
good.
yes, okay, so yeah, so warming does outweigh xenophobia. Wow, that's fucked up in a microaggression. There you go. I guess the permutation. I guess which migrants do you talk to about the plan?
Which migrants do we talk to about the plan? Any migrants who are part of the party. Any migrants who want to talk to us about the research that we
Which
presented.
party have you endorsed? Question mark.
We think that the affirmative is in line with building the party.
Which is in line with which parties?
A climate Leninist socialist party.
Which parties?
A climate Leninist.
So you just fiat a party?
We don't fiat a party. We fiat the plan, and we think that's in line.
Existing movements.
Yeah.
Existing.
See, this is
Why
why
did I say
migrants
existing
can't trust you.
movements? I
This
don't-
is also why you're probably not a socialist. You can't even say you're a socialist.
Hey, Brian, name me a movement. Yeah, you're the socialist here. Why are you quiet?
Brian.
Oh, is that Brian? Oh
That's-
shit, my bad.
Who's Brian?
Ben, my bad. Ben.
Our whole point is that we do not endorse any existing socialist, whatever.
Ben.
Not going to do this.
Wait. Did you read every card in the doc?
I don't think so.
Okay, I go with my card.
Do you want me to take out the cards I didn't read?
Yes.
Okay, that's gonna take page 2.
That's not gonna wait. Yeah. Derek, all I'm gonna say. Derek, all I'm gonna say, we didn't strike you.
We also
We
just
don't-
strike you.
I don't get emails anymore
Oh, you don't for the.
that say we're on strike.
Yeah, I thought Devin was joking.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I just didn't know.
Yeah, we don't know. You just find out when you get the email and you're like, oops.
That's terrible. Yeah, Jasmine took his Vegas last night to show her, so she asked. She was
We
like,
did?
yeah.
Oh, no, who asked?
Oh, Jasmine did.
Okay.
I asked.
You asked me.
Oh, for the octets.
Oh, no. You can't blame me for that one.
I reset the Tracy with
Okay.
okay. So you can
I'll just pull it up.
How much prep do you all have?
9:30. I'll start at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, you're good. Just let me know.
Okay, I do.
Yeah.
Can you also send for a section doc?
They should all be in there.
Okay. 825.
Sorry, what did you say?
825.
Thank you.
Sending cards.
Yeah, that's right. You did. It's right next to it. Oh, sorry. No, I thought I'm marking.
The other one. I don't think they got the name. Yeah. For the local one. Because they just ate it in the restaurant. So I think I can. But the book was, it was times, so.
Curtis, why didn't we match the Long Beach shirts?
So I
They're
have
only
the
one.
shirt. I have the shirt under. Loki, I'm kind of tired of being police about not wearing my shirt. Or like, look, I have it, but
I like it. The shark is cool.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was just sitting here like kind of clued in. I was like, wait a minute.
see, everybody on my team is probably looking at me with a stink face right now because I don't have it on.
I'm very scared of her.
Yeah, no, she has a dead stare like crazy. It's nuts.
It's just casual stuff.
What is this?
Wait, so me and do business catch every day, and then Monday is shirt.
Mondays. And like half the team falls and half of them is not done. We designed the insurance, but I've been waiting for months for universal communications and marketing to approve them, so.
We wanted to do hockey jerseys for the NDT. We couldn't find any that looked cool and were not like $1 pieces. So we were like, maybe we won't actually do that.
I got those.
It's
Oh.
Yeah.
I will just be for team.
So overview.
They cost the same. I'm trying to get into golf. I'm trying to get into golf.
Why?
I don't know.
That's horrible.
It looks fun.
Sorry, you said yes, overview?
Yes, overview, just K.
It's not, it's gonna take a minute. It's gonna like,
It's all good.
I have it, so I'm good, but I think Ben's still waiting.
yeah.
Yes, we should.
What should it? Okay, there we go. Okay, let me try this. Okay, yeah.
Actually, the overview's not even that big. It's like 14 sentences. Like that's a pretty size. That's
14 sentences.
okay. And I promise you it'll be like 20 seconds back. It's not gonna go. Okay. Jeff, David, Elena, EC, Eric, Georgetown. Perfect. I'll start with that. The world operates on the logic of my responsibility to identify the creation and nation they do. The conduct of killing and race by the other extends not to he says that policy based become mean-making competition. The idea that debate should be an equitable form of conversation becomes a metaphor to ensure that the documented immigrants do not have access to a political process they would see as procedurally fair. This concept of anti-migrant sentiment generates the logic of responsibility would set the stage for large-scale environmental racism and environmental racism within socialist movement, i.e. migrants are kept at toxic waste facility at the border Latino community are kept in fracking sites and socialist nations still promote borders to keep out the other prove that right-wing citizens or white economically inclined citizens still have access to clean air water, which would generate the ability to generate environmental racism and global warming on the categorical level. First argument is materiality of joint African colony that don't be wrong, yes, Africa's economic Jews win as you think the colonies all individuals in enslaved in the colonies were simply making the measurable and waging on future world that African Jews, Irish, people will be different with the constitution that absolutely dominate Jew or maybe Jews on the freedom and the matrix are getting like the sex and raciality. But yeah, coming to that, the African woman here and move that still for the mind part that makes them world. Otherwise, the NDT raising of the raising is like in the context of the take the development and the reducing into the bureaucratic the world order and the backwards the horizon affect theory. Now, first argument is migrant possible progress for migrant is possible. This is pathologic, it's fucking wrong. It will be a reason why you reject team and they will lose. All their examples are from 2020, not assume Trump could reload, which is obviously fucked up since South Dakota, which shows the way they masterface of imperialism and anti-migrant sentiment through their policy making because they assume that they can just be out their way out of the Trump administration that's currently doing fucked up shit to migrants, i.e. they're part about DACA being good, rolled back by Trump proof that he's not gonna fuck because he deport people who even have papers to deport people who are citizens, etc. Just because you look like you're a migrant, it proves that their understanding of social borders are bad, and it proves that they allow people to get off the hook, drug prosecute them while a lot of bars in the status quo only 4 hours from you trying to engage with legal procedures, i.e. ask the cop, do you have papers, do you have warrants for you pulling me over, and then you got beat up, put out the truck, and then deported anyway, which proves that all their arguments about migrants, possible progress, legal record migrants, being possible, is just flat out wrong, and from being allowed you to say inside the way that possible work would be a reason to reject the team because it proves that the sources they produce are apolitical activists that justify anti-migrant death for their own social party. Now, next argument is decision-making impact by Frederick proof that their offense is bad because it proves that the decision that they make with their social the ones that recreate anti-migrant sentiment, which is bad. Moral obligation will be impacted by Frederick because it proves that you do not have a moral obligation to migrants. Now, Frederick proper, I'm going to do the metaphorical exclusion is that at the top procedural fairness is bad because they seek to break out migrant scholarship to the fear market aligned by our model of reputation. Research and advising about migrants taking jobs from true Americans and being unfair to citizens and problems. What are the debate through metaphorical violence, export policymakers, activists, and socialists who recreate xenophobic ideology by focusing on the citizen as opposed to the migrant. We categorize them and others who try to direct behind the justification by a dangerous Trump 2-bill presidency. Artists are over-focused on discord is pathologizing to the proofs that they tell migrants you're focusing too much about your own oppression and we have to have collective solutions for all with who they break out migrants under the wrong debate. The next argument is fatalism. We are only fatalistic about Georgetown white-ass socialism. Our argument is that investing your energy back into micro-pessimistic world-making solves the internal religious argument to prove that migrants need to be optimistic about their own world-making. Next argument I will do is the 9 races have. 9 races have the class that they want under the model is purposely used to fabricate in order to get access to the oil, LNG, econ, and teaching how waste this have, or teaching how waste they basically can crowd out and dehumanize people of color in their scholarship. With the arguments I said above, which psychologically and materially impact barriers of color with the core activists and socialists who recreate anti-migrancy for ideology that precludes their class and fairness often. Because this is a question if migrant behaviors were comfortable showing up to this place in the first place, which proves that they recreate and break up migrant. Now, next argument that we have not denied migrant every link will prove such, but also our argument is that if your model base is acceptable to migrant, it proves that you end up dehumanizing them. Now, our interpretation that the voice needs to only be used in research project and does not give away the hypothetical consequences of the plan act, not the fiat policy option, but they do give away their research and repetition versus the critique. First argument is that infinitely regressive. This is a racial microaggression and the pathologizing to assume that when migrants talk about their experience, they are being infinitely regressive and we should focus back on the citizens and the nation state as opposed to the grassroots movement to prove they break out migrants. Next argument is research key to competition, which proves they concede a subjectivity. Argument proves all they have to win is they bring that link that the research project is bad, that proves that their model is based for bad activists. Next argument that individuals debate teachers about the world, impact if I win that your model is bad. Next argument is it's key to solve capitalism. Sorry, colony event, you are not. The same recruit that you not get access to the link argument, but our argument that we do it better than grassroots movement, which is a communication and I'll do later. Now, next argument that makes us more reflective, obviously not too far from the link. Now, communication debates are better under our model because debates after I think so focus, but we only focus on the justification, only focus on the research we present in this round, generate revolutionary class based on the balance of the topic, which generates epistemological growth. They drop that gives debates a tool of that's better because it gives debates a tool to engage in strategy for social change. It's like debates where we censor research to act like new worlds and put the agency back into debaters as opposed to the government never access. Now, fiat is a skill that's pure team. Fiat uses everything activity. Fiat is working with accuracy. The only thing we're able to fiat is those things out of the ability to be really and dealing allowed to be created and creating itself not to be more meaningful changes in documenting to be good. People to believe that fiat is no fair enough for person good. I'm practically practically politics are really want to be there. So I say the fiat is the debate. You have to take the to say the middle of all the debate. Not saying we not access. Navigate politics is teach how to be the government state another thing to do. We will by politics another politics. Politics are provided to and say action. But only comes by not say action. Fiat races. Now, fiat key to enter new worlds impact turn. But the links I will do later can prove that that's about engaging the political inheritance belongs to the outside world. But the next argument that we need to recapture state power. One, see the political argument is not unique because Trump, our president, proves they not solve that offense because every single policy debate that's happened for the past 1,200 years that has been the example of their model debate actually is not stop Trump or anything for policy. He is try or die for grassroots movement under our model debate. Now, util good is impact by the basketball. Are we util is probably white supremacy. That's Velasquez 12, the L12. Is it possible to this argument is cost-benefit analysis is good. Argument above answer it. Depth outweighs will be later. But I will do a couple more cynical framework. One, you link this is good. If one of the ways to participate and also looking forward to align through the research to prove that this present to the social politics as well would mean that rejecting unethical research zero and will be about the proximity argument that the two will go for the your hat on the technique. There will be a George Lee. This has that benefit. In fight debate to the world, a hyper-competitive disadvantage. They just fight trophies over more actors. Remember, the world doesn't consciously win and does not matter at the end of the day, but the world is fucking produced. That we have about explorers deals power the presidency day. Do not do now. Legal side to staff politics are fucked right now. Nothing about voting out changes. Don't make legal side better. The idea of a secret and debate about policy action is so children about anyone's your reader is for proof options that prove they gamify debate so goddamn much to the point that debate should just become boosted and gain in politics, but they never do because they're stuck in the competitive aspect of debate, which rate equal aspect ensures that commonly and bad just equivalent for when to prove by how they can name a social movement, but it works for dictating a capital government when they leave space because them socialism is just a fucking game. Now, white supremacists is that not let them shift for their advocacy. Look, nothing about voting affirmative solves climate change, but you do know that voting affirmative signals that your social reader project is good, which means by when that your social reader project market is bad. You vote negative because nothing about the OEC can solve any external impact from climate change because they conceded that nothing about even the plant itself shift away from capitalist infrastructure improves. Vote negative on presumption and vote for our fair model. Now, the alternative one is to affirm micro pessimism out of rejection of the OEC require refusing to have a firm apostle warning that refusing colonial policy making micro pessimistic world making solve the OEC and our like arguments to give evidence to frame the way you think about it because when micro women are proud out of basis because they do not speak English, they gather in their own community in order to create their own form of living. Micro pessimism looks like borrowing the knowledge that micro women have been using from Venezuela, immigrants from Bolivia talking about the MIS movement, which is a Bolivian social group that deeply respect borders and one of the only communities with no rights to nature laws. I'm actually migrants talking about the history of Zamatista and the way they found border pipeline in Latin America, etc. It's all a version of Latinx migrant socialism that rejects white socialism. Now, look, cross-sex and the 2AC was dead for them because they literally said all white-only led organization is bad. That's how you should view this debate. They are an all-white organization. Vote negative for CSU because they've conceded that their organization is bad. The alternative is something better. Now, the only argument they have with solving warming is a moral obligation. One, impact term with the justification behind that, about recycling. Nothing about voting for to solve that. Only we should focus on the regional project. Now, the nightmares is that they said on Raleigh 25 which we and even impact turn one. They said the warrant. They said that epistemologies of indigenous or Mexican people are seen as less important by policymakers because it gets crowded out with waste scenarios which justifies Western progress. It is always a price nation that they say i.e. migrants are categorized as an existential threat to the citizens through U.S. American i.e. calling Haitian migrants dog eaters, calling Latinx criminals, aliens, or predators, or sexual abuse, or drug users, all fabricated existential threats were to justify the mass cleansing of race and other through border logic and mass killing due to might be seen as an existential threat to everyone. Now, when they say that makes people think actually one of my parents 5 words and 5 words of study that's a while that's 22. Remember when MCF yeah, it's talking about talking but nobody wants to discuss it. Why don't people hear more about using or I don't think about people education 500 years like my favorite telling you the word you more read it. Nothing I can send money anytime. So when that's when just like that's what natural was my lives inside of the lack of giving activity having difficulty care that people not really know any difference. That's right.
What was the card you just read?
It's the line 22 card was in the doc.
Oh, you're 22?
Yeah,
Okay,
I just got caught up in a car.
Yeah, I see that. Let me,
Which card?
it's under,
Okay.
you all are good for 36.
Yeah.
Okay, first question, you said your model is better for KDP debates. Our interpretation is that if the 1AC chooses to forward a plan, the negative should rejoin it. Why does that crowd out KDP debates?
Well, we think that rejoining or at least affirming a plan is bad because it assumes that we can have agency in government, which none of us ever
Well,
will.
why does it assume we have agency in the government? Like,
Because it
neither Ben nor
assumes
I
that
have
what we
negative
talk about
opinions
US
on
that we should do translates to actual policy, which it doesn't. But also,
When
you
did
may
you
go
say
for
that?
testing legal strategies because our argument is that nothing about your model teaches legal strategies because you say we should imagine doing a policy without telling us how we get there.
I guess
It's like
what's the
zero's class.
distinction
It's like
between
there's
these
no
things?
class.
Like,
What?
at no point have we said that the reason that fiat is good is because it makes things happen. Our argument is instead that the competitive research incentives reduced by needing to
Yeah, but
policies is
so like
better.
that could be true, but our argument is that that needs to be divorced from state action because it disincentivizes behaviors from engaging in political action
Wait,
outside.
why is that true?
Because the trade evidence said very clearly that none of the major social movements, especially socialism, were driven by top-down movements. Every example that the OEC is listed about socialism has to be grounded in social grassroots
Okay,
activism. Our argument is that
different
divorcing
question
yourself from that is bad because it assumes top-down world making, includes impact
I
turn,
have a
because
different
it
question
shapes
I'd really
behavior.
like to ask.
Sure.
Movements need to work towards endpoints. They have to agree that there's particular goals that they're headed toward. How do movements come to decisions about which endpoints are worth pursuing?
By
if not
engaging in
being
grassroots conversation about such, i.e. it starts
Why
from
is
the
us
starts from
presenting
community
an
and then
endpoint
goes
that we
into
think
that.
is desirable, not a way of having that kind of
And
grassroots
you-
conversation
you-
within this debate?
Say the question again.
Why is us presenting an endpoint that we think it's worth striving towards, not a form of having
It's
that
not
kind of
about
grassroots
your
conversation?
endpoint, it's about your starting point, your particular starting point.
Well, right, but you
Like,
just
those are two
said that in
different
order for movements to be able to go anywhere, they need to have a discussion
So
about
that's a
endpoints
starting
and where
point.
they're headed.
That's a starting point.
No, so.
No, in order to do, so you said in order to do something to get there, argument in order to get there, you have to do something else, which is the framework
Well,
we have.
But that seems like a little circular, and
Why?
our argument is instead that movements can't just make forward without first deciding where they are
But
going.
those
Our model
movements
is good,
cannot
it's good.
formulate unless they happen in grassroots movements. See the connection there?
I sure, except though that our argument is that debate is good for comparing endpoints, And that gives us the skills
Nothing
to
about our
then go
model
on and
precludes
do kinds of
endpoints. Our argument is that you do not get to weight the hypothetical consequences.
Well, that is
of use of
precluding
plan.
endpoints, right?
Sorry?
Because you have said this debate should not be about comparing two potential political endpoints.
It should be about two political endpoints that are not state action.
Why? Like,
So,
why do you
okay,
get to
I will
presume
give
that we should
the-
compare
I will give
state
the
actions
explanation
to
again.
that?
It-
How
this
do we
is a-
arrive at whether or not state action is good without comparing it to non-state action and having robust debates?
Our argument is that your model weight doesn't do that because it teaches you to imagine some shit, and you cannot tell
Well, but
me
that's
how.
a question of endpoints,
Okay.
right? We need to
Well,
imagine,
no,
here's the
no,
endpoint
because
for
our
what we
argument,
would like
well,
to do.
it's twofold. One, state action is bad in debate, grassroots is better. Second argument is that even if we do win, that there is some benefit to talking about state action. Our argument that there actually is no benefit because imagining a policy does not give you the tools to go up to the White House and tell them how to fucking implement it.
Sentences quite well.
No, I think there's another one.
Give me a second. The Wi-Fi's coming.
Yeah, you're good. It would have been nice being one of the only teams that didn't have to fly like 9 hours to get here.
For once.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
I
fair.
mean, that's the, yeah. I was like, this sucks, but also we want to do this next time, so I shouldn't complain.
Sometimes I wish I was a part of D7 just so I could do the D7 chant and
It's-
feel it.
It's pretty awesome.
I mean, nothing's stopping you.
That's true, you can join in.
No, I was doing it last night. I can't even count.
Oh, that's nice.
We have a lot of people join in, even if they're not.
Fact.
Yeah, the D7 D come back and I also can't believe Harris just like stood up in a chair. That was
Oh.
awesome.
Harris is hurt. Harris is hurt. She stood up on the chair anyway.
That was so good.
I thought that was like pre-planned. I thought that was like a stunt. I was like, what is he doing?
You know, he just got up there. I was like, what?
I'm just excited.
Okay, I think I finally got it. So let me know when you'll get that. Yeah, so in the meantime, it's just Cam start off where Curtis left off, and then signpost case. Yeah, it's still setting. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me refresh it. Just hold on.
They say Monday or Tuesday.
It's Monday.
You're like we've been here all goddamn week.
I was totally forgot to make an activity for tomorrow. So I just like I am. I just probably won't have to, so. So I'll tell you what happened, like a few weeks ago. We sent you like the professor was like, you talk so loud. And I was like, that was really bad. Sorry.
Yeah, like my Wi-Fi was stuck. Like I couldn't even put my good like it's a far out.
Yes.
Did you know who it was?
I know it's a history professor, and I think his name is Dr. Jonathan Cagle. So I think like I was like, I don't know the fuck. But
And I was, but we were like from opposite sides of the wall.
Yeah, this might take a minute, I'm not gonna lie.
I went to work close to everything. I just wanted to die.
If this is gonna take a second, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. Yeah, my. Not just do it.
You want to connect to a hotspot?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I just got like a gray like screen. I don't even have anything.
I think there's a password.
Whoever's his name Cannoli, that's the next thing.
Okay, so mine's Elena Walker's iPhone. The password is my name, ALAINAWA, and it's all lowercase no space.
So wait, can I get that again?
All lowercase, ALAINAWA.
Okay, so there we go. Sweet. I guess I'll wait for Courage before I send it. Or do you just like, oh no, wait, you don't need it. Okay, my bad, I'm tripping. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, let me know when y'all got that.
So are you just starting on what you think where, like right where you left off,
Yeah, wait, hold on. That's weird, it probably just scrolled up, but I'll have to wait for Curtis, but probably not. Did it work?
We got it, yeah.
I got it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When I was spinning, we had to buy the little jetpacks, like the little tiny things that you have to insert down.
Oh shit! Like I
I have a bunch of those sitting on. We had like a box full of those and like turn right.
Oh my gosh. We had what's the word you borrow from the library? Yeah, we got to borrow one from the library. And that shit didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're right there.
Yeah, is it gonna start on the re-highlighted that I said that I include?
Neil, let's just kind of lock this. Is that the current on?
What did I do? Did I send the wrong one?
Should it say the loophole?
Oh, I should.
I was like, I'm seeing loophole retrieve, but
Oh, yeah, okay. My bad, my bad.
I've seen this one in our report, but
Yeah.
It looks a little familiar.
Okay, the hotspot should still be on if you need to reconnect it.
Oh wow, I didn't know this debate streaming. That's fun.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, now it's set. Let me know when y'all got those cards.
Yep.
Set, okay.
Yeah, I'm just putting it.
Yeah, you're good.
We're both good.
Okay. Cool. Everyone? Hannah? Sid? Okay. Georgetown? Yeah. Curtis? Alright.
Extended climate whiteness link or evidence uses IPC as justification for climate change. That is in yellow. And fear migration and GND supports the link here. And NDT 22 transition and transition is wait. That's also inserted in yellow. I don't know why that was there. They read Jody Dean, they're a member of the PSO, which proves their socialism, recreates violent forms, a sexual assault, coercion, gaslighting, numbers, disarmament, the 24th Ellen Bruce for PSO, we asked their front of the investigation, where as old Bruce was asked if we had knowledge of internal handling, PSO, regarding against PSO member, Sean, and Myers in 2020, the Ellen Bruce was on the way, you waited a long time for that one, I'm home in PSO, and there's a lot of women in PSO, we do have issues, the question of what we do we solve those problems with women, and then we have the women in the navigation, especially since our organization has under our so we go reading the media while talking and asking doing the job agencies. Now, extend the moment evidence to 26 call to implement, the plan is rooted in white supremacist climate justice moves that enable zero policy that are supporting institutions build. About anti-black is that's a micro-sentiment, that's low, that says politics exactly say things like we don't have time to argue about social justice, we don't solve for climate change, black lives don't matter, or leaders in the IPCC saying carbon atoms across borders. The problem is that too many CO2 molecules that CO2 must start when controlling at the border, which means it cannot be a pessimistic that ensures that migrants are criminalizing climate policy that serves for arguments because the benefits of class because the benefits only applies to citizens when criminalizing those without papers be ensures the humanization of grassroots like movements like BLM, which trace out any trace out social justice and key to prevent hegemonic climate politics and corrupt policy makers see serial policy failure, cycle issues, at least endless growth insurance capitalism needs capitalism alive. Loman says both climate activists might find herself bemused by the way U.S. climate activists as advocacy carbon rises, carbon development, and GND or any of the approach that identifies the problem as immigrant CO2 molecules or any of the accumulation white supremacy, unrealistic imperialism, and this is the example that you confirm socialist moves to Soviet anti-migrant i.e. such Travis fought for workers' rights and Chicanos, workers' rights own the state, but then said we need the new influx of migrants who are stealing jobs of those who are already established in the migrants but come here without papers should be deported, which means that it turns our offense on the permutation only. The alternative can solve the wholesale by rejecting those sources of bias. They said the plan solves for people from their home. I don't know what this means, but it doesn't solve for migrants. They said why only organizations are bad, be for real, nobody. No other organization here is here. Georgetown is white. Perfect. No permutation, all links are disadvantages to the permutation proves that where two mutually exclusive strategies cannot be equal with another proves competition because you have to be between the alternative the two that came to say you refuse to join policy action with Microsoft's discrimination the perm requires a form of unconsensual visibility that forcibly asks migrants to reject the team for endangering undocumented lives because those games are always as game through pathologization. This there is a pragmatic legislative practice creates an economy of between good and bad migrants results in the exclusionary containment policies that turns the victims into commodity for Western exceptionalism and truth. Rebels 22 separation between good and bad migrants and racialized, which will result in exclusionary containment policies and common security the futures of the migrant. As far as our the image of women migrants, victims, the victims of Holocaust, and social discourse, and the issues these are represented as well as victims in the victim of other regulation. As with what happened is transforming guidelines in the Western United people, as long as refugees in ways in which policy shape this vulnerability is victimization versus political measure silence of the with no agency by desperation easily becomes unpredictable. The third is forced sanitation. This other verb is used as state propaganda to continue deportation, anti-Palestinian propaganda, and other violent policies under the guise of radicalism. Marxism. The 24th, the U.S. arrested more than 1,000 person advocated at the end of legal occupation hotline, or investment with the massive organization of Black Lives Matter, Rangers, rights, and or moves that state releases the police officers, these funds without consequences or in interventions with the community wise pressure over revolving buildings, politicians who receive millions of probably zero legislation and policies and interview propaganda, back here mission and to serve interest. And they said permutation, we can be pessimistic as well. Obviously, you can't be pessimistic when you have literally said that extinction outweighs in-round xenophobia, which is the argument, and it's a flinch as to how you will create xenophobic policies within this space and a xenophobic rhetoric that allows and enables racist policymakers to church all your skills and clash arguments because you only insult and fucked up people who do fucked up shit for migrants, which justifies all of the arguments about the death and the status quo of legal waters that we have given the examples of, which means there's no firm case. Now, the overview, they didn't extend the entirety of their five planes crossings as binding. They didn't extend it, nothing about the damn said licensing or any other language in the place, which means that their plan is vague, but make a presumption. They don't solve, and look at the overview, they are lying. This is research that seems the same way that climate policymakers will say their ethics are unconditional to documented people, and they'll go back and get them PHIE, assessment Travis, who said we need to support migrants who say this for a second, attract back and deporting them because they did not support his cause, which means they're a conditional alliance would allow politicians to throw rocks and hide their hand, reject the team, and any witty arguments proves our lying argument. You should reject racist gaslighting. Progress is possible. Grow optimism, this, that there is nothing that Toronto can do. Tell black and brown people new deals passed, just new deals about past just about mining in the DRC that is proved by supporting people who aren't even undocumented, deporting migrants to Toronto, big drill, baby drill, and free. No white supremacists who are in the January 6th race. Nothing about voting for Georgetown does anything. This can be cross the line to the model clash. The skills, 2 yes bias, neurological and subconscious, even emotional control, society size, the best studies here, sample size, CrossFit, 18, nothing limited to one control society, so conscious lines, racism, stereotypes, society, the measure bias remains believed, second, this has 70% white, have heroic bodies, 20 pounds, white men, and black male, faces with the glasses, activities, white, and then the with feelings of neuroscience, milliseconds, emotional impulses, portion. Now, presumption, Trump will roll back the plan. This is not a question of endpoint because there will never be an endpoint to Georgetown's model to make no durable PI. It's core optimism for migrants because it tells them that they can engage in their politics when they gamify the lives of migrants as pieces on a chessboard. I.e., when I asked Colony, does extinction outweigh xenophobia? They said yes. This proves our skills through durably beyond the plan justifies gamification that plays with migrants' lives and simply allows allows Georgetown to play the game while justifying xenophobic microaggressions that allows for people to say things like borders good, death, and deportation of migrants are good through policies so long as we engage in the consequences to save their white life, which proves they sustain the model that produces white anxieties, where they see migrants as threats, intimate so much to the point where they justify a status quo of death, which is the bell evidence on the K. That can be cross-applied. Here's the reason why they don't get durable fiat because it causes racist gamification, which serves all the arguments about cost net benefit analysis because obviously that shit would rely on racist standards. Now, they don't have any inherency because the legislators like Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida and Arizona all prove that there's no inherency for them to where 4 states into that RK will do it, which means that there's no offense. Now, the co-op evidence, expertise, link, obscuring, racialized, and gender differentiations that affect answers to McCarthy and 21 evidence because they can't understand or theorize conditions of race because there are neurological biases to blame black people and immigrants for climate change, which obscures climate change and makes solving it impossible in terms of skills because policymakers will always just invest in theory of positive.
How much?
55 left.
I just didn't really float out. I did it like a point it was really like the worst pan ever. I thought I was gonna go point, like I looked it up. I was like,
It's really funny.
and I was like, how am I gonna tell my mom this? Because like, oh, a second.
Yo, Josh, can I have one?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Are they correct?
No. Case and then the critique.
Okay, I have a very annoying question.
Yeah.
Can you tell me where framework is on the case?
Yeah, so they did like their theory of how things work at the top, so I'll be doing that first, and then after that, I'll do framework.
Thank you.
So you're just going like straight down the line.
Yeah. Okay, everyone good to go? CSU, you good? And all, cool, okay.
Cases of offensive justification for the plan and or epistemology outright concession of a number of premises which should frame your evaluation of the framework debate and the desirability of the plan versus any potential alternative. One, absent reclamation of the state capitals like Elon Musk will geoengineer rather than give up their capital to now that they're through termination shocks. Four, intentional manipulation of food supplies due to the slow radiation management is scientifically guaranteed to cause sudden massive global weather shocks that trigger the worst tail end versions of climate collapse. And three, that we've already too far gone in CO2 concentrations of winter are scientific uncertainty, which means that the truest possibility is to try to hide specific individuals and populations within civilizational scale and for renewable other species and value systems for that the plan is a realistic shot of solving it, even if they manage to win it, there are imperfections that definitely case that direct their customers are best shot in negative visions. And five, the consequences of their are separate from the ethicality, and that the best number of bad things we should care about running. We did not take any planks into we even explain all these issues specifically because I want to see the answer specifically, but we're advocating for all of these, which means there's no much of these we're not kicking planks. Obviously, Gru Ultimus will be answered. With Gru Ultimus will be answered after the fact that Trump is in office does not mean our skills are bad. The charisma consciousness, people have unconscious bias. The McDonald's part of the critique says materiality explains it better. Should be done with the critique. Triple theological Ultimus was wrong. That be done on framework. We also think people game pieces. This precludes all debates over important issues in the world. Yes, it is a game, but it's not falsifiable. I'm not to say that we don't care about the world. They care about the world. No inherency. The states will fail. People will move to Texas because they're not regulating it. There's no promises. RFK will get it past. Expertise link is wrong. Where this is critique only caring about data and not lived experience. It's not us. It's one part of the puzzle, but let's show you the entire picture. The critique. Historical materialism is an impact turn to the theory of power. It explains all of their often spent one migration profit motives. It explains the border, casting undocumented people as illegitimate, serves to create a group of people who were forced to work for low wages, which serves the ends of capital to even irrational examples of the bounties migrants can be understood materially, or when anti-migrant racism goes against the interests of white people, capitalist subdivision, through propaganda to make white people think that anti-migrant policies will benefit the which interests. Most of the examples to indicate the theory of power also isn't a win condition. Harm reduction is good, even if anti-migrant violence is inevitable. Things can get better or worse, and anti-migrant violence is also contingent. The border security laws in California will sanctuary city laws apply resist all was guaranteed. Undocumented children access to schools. Those reforms might not be durable and things might not be getting better in the scope. It does prove contingency is true, and this will be magnified by institutional engagement. Clarity goals only possibilities mobilization at electoral level and movement at the electoral level and movement lowering disagreeing about the three powers on the voting issue. But you should have a group of voting issues. You should have a high threshold. But all for office and favor candidates to run discussions that are solve voting issues better. Competitive incentives are always at play. In round makes solutions effective, and it's esteemed valid threats for valuable conversations later. Now, framework is question banking. If you lose it, the entire case is in the vector end of the app. Because it's pretty caution proof that the solution, then I guess the verge rejoin the affirmation. Now, most important argument to stop winning is about endpoints are good means you go app features. Every line about Trump being in office and durable fiat being bad, all the debate laws, to intervention possible endpoints compare them decide which is better. This key to radical revolutionary outcomes and turns their office building is only so if you know where you are going, which makes the hardest basically to decide whether that's good. And if you're actually movement building offense, the fact that movement building offense can be good is not a reason our education is bad. Now, there are a couple other pieces of offense. One, infinite regress, the only non-arbitrary improvements in our solution, the after verdict proof, and the negative verdict rejoin or any deviation from the test by any other self-justification. It opens towards self-serving, you know, determining the negative condition, which is unpredictable, that with the collapse of research status, which is above the cautious fairness. Fairness matters, it is inherently competitive, which makes it different from a club or academic conference, which is why we're all spending the week in Spokane, Washington, arbitrarily shifting the big condition, drops, space, and require preparation, and able to control their own destiny, self-directed to any benefit of debate. Second is research, our interpretation of words, hard work, which is key to deep testing, which is most portable, it makes policy different from reality, their interpretation sacrifices policy assessment, which is key to cost analysis, and C is politics to the far right, in the entire case, proves the false legislature vector, plus testing makes us more flexible better people, especially important during Trump in terms of critiques made, it doesn't shift because friends, family, etc. But if it does, structural research incentives are a bigger internal individual base, and we should be competitively incentivized. Initial spread is hard to bring students. Now, the line by line solution TA is wrong. You can read the critique. You can read the critique. You should have to be. We just get rid of things necessarily solve things. Restrictions on the ultimate or to some extent inevitable. So any restrictions bad is clearly untenable. Our version of space solves KVK with the flash matter. And you can read the critiques of migrants are just that you need to focus on the plan. The fails in TA. We don't forget the socialist movement is friend of analysis, which will be done later. The migrant TA is wrong. People should go for the cap the material laws. And you can also critique reading the oil TA, which solves all of your offense favor is on by progression that was done above. Unilateral determinations of these are bad, which was the ad round versus the stuff above. We didn't concede some 50 shift arguments that 1 year of base produces much 50 shift, not that one round does they get the critique, which solves the KVK is better argument. Trade regard is wrong. We don't trade regard is wrong. Taking that endpoints is good. The fact that learning about organizing tactics can be good. Some prove our education is bad. Our education is bad. The extinction does outweigh the extinction does outweigh the highest possibility for all future life. For all future life goals with more modes of being exists in this way. Bring that that's a nice people agency. And the people find value in the lives that this is role you lose is bad. One balance and shapes activity, we should size and internalize the loss of resource out of blocks. You get the critique, you see some material alternative, we get them, we get the case in the method. It's purely political logic, the political project is complete. You lose. Ignores the fact that trade-offs are inevitable and forecloses on systematic debates in the search to resolve our offense, which resulted on the case of review incalculability of the parties are relevant. You can't qualify utility, but that does not mean that it's still bad. Debate is not exclusively competitive, but they're also competing to rule off was answered above. Now the alternative, the only thing I've answered here is the nightmare TA. Yes, migrants are seen as a threat, but the reason that exists is explained materially, which I explained at the top of the page. Jody Dean is not a voting issue. Jody Dean is not a voting issue. This card, the Jody Dean is part of the PSL, but you also cited people from the PSL who wrote this card advocating for change, which proves that unless you have a specific invite that says Jody Dean says something bad, you should vote on it. The common link is wrong. Our focus is not just on carbon. It's a necessary part of the puzzle. It's a necessary part of the puzzle. No serial policy building, you have to contextualize this. The act. There's also no climate link. We don't embrace climate security. That's how Trump justifies fighting climate change. Not us. We propose a different solution. Lastly, provocation to both. Embrace a better party. Embrace a better version of the party. Especially because we're not even embracing any party altogether. Rather than as method of analysis, there's no sanitization TA or containment or consent TA because yeah.
Who got me on time? Yeah.
What's up?
You have my time?
Yeah.
It's
All
25.
ready, 25.
Oh, what was the first test?
Just that permutation due to the very second better version of the socialist movement. It is not anti-migrant. Yeah.
They didn't hear it through NDT.
No, sure.
What's it? Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was. Hold on, wait, I'm sorry. Okay, I lied.
I think this is.
Pretty consistent. Yes.
I was like a wheel slide.
That's nice. That's clean.
We'll figure that out right now. Looks sometimes. G. G.
Okay. The order is gonna be the critique, and then it's gonna be case.
Where is from after review?
Yeah, it's gonna be after the overview. Like, we're just do your power stuff.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Georgetown.
Yeah.
Jeff. Okay. I saw it.
You as an all-white panel and Georgetown as an all-white team are going to vote negative to affirm private investments in world-making as strategies against the African century Western economy that cause migrants responsibility, criminality, Trump, two widows to frame the way you prioritize research because we are willing that there cannot be a moral obligation to state because legal rights and engagement deny engagement status quo because law is a dead name for migrant faith on their metaphorical excuse and beat the head because you need to push your urgency on that because migrants are dying every fucking day and getting deployed with your ballot to be the government research that prioritize their lives. There's nothing about voting out all conversation more or you and you, but only the ballot consists of members who are being willing that therefore the social system climate activists still rely on microability rather than ones who result in these really violent socials outside their own faith who engage in racist xenophobic ideology by creating social borders and union that use migrant death to prove that your role is done is to endorse best strategies for migrants that are not rely on state-based solutions or friendly because anything else in this system and the legal trap that solidify their dead new legal strategies that are set up to get them deported. They drop every example of talking getting rolled back migrants or getting deported without due process, a lot of warrant, and getting kicked out of warrant deported even though he had a video to prove that even since the getting deported because he looked undocumented need that the only strategy for migrants is engaging community-based climate activism, which I'll do later on framework. The first argument is historical materialism drop both the idea and give evidence with disprove probability of taking power. Explain things better because the one they are dropped, but one they are goes with evidence that says that there is a psychological bias within people who otherwise the migrant and drop every example of Trump calling and migrant animals in order to get their schools shut down, which are not all attributed to capitalism and because of the problem, prove only our power to solve. Next argument is capital division, dropping example about how Trump used relic of fear in order to scare them over this way from the market type of proof and not connected to the problem of the affect. Next argument is Harvard that to the anti-migrant provides inevitable. This is the reason how socialists crowd out and justify migrants by saying, oh, well, it's inevitable. We still need a universal socialism with index to research project proves they produce unethical activists, not give a fuck about migrants long. As we face socialism, the next argument is consistency. Screwed progress is grew up in the drop that nothing but the model making stop Trump to agree to deals like the DRC, Guantanamo Bay, Group and Drill, or free white supremacists who are January 6th, right? Because nothing they cannot solve it. Only our free interpretation can do it. Now, further interpretation that the one station only reviews the research project and not the way, not the consequence of the plan. When the way see reproduce files reject the team, they not get free out, but they get the way their consequence now. They say, take this justification for the plan, and we mean we're winning. That research is anti-migrant proof that you do not need English in CCK, which is a drop on drive 25, and we need to know that the plan they say when you care about politics in the world, you not do that because you only care about citizens, not migrants. You later next argument that we got Edward are good. Drop that nothing about imagining policy gets you to Edward. You cannot feed out legislative action in the real world without geographic action in the first. We prove that only on market saw. They say you know where we're going. You don't know where you're going because you dropped a couple arguments. They say if you're aggressive, drop that. There's no impact to motivate competition under our model. Now, one class drop the 9 versus that class in what is perfectly fabricated with a 6-hour waste scholarship in order to psychologically and physically impact market behavior. They activists who create xenophobia policy. They drop that routine class for instance, question of market behavior for companies shows up here in the first place. That's probably how we do fairness here. One, drop the Sati evidence that said where for exclusion is that the procedure first back and see the driving out the migrant by fear mongering, affective lies about migrants taking jobs and being unfair to people with really very important in debate, increase dangerous policymakers. Drop the George lead that benefit in this game over, game fight, debate to the point of get hyper competitive back to this fight, wins over trophy in the real world. Drop the George lead quote that said wins losses do not matter if we score bad activists mean that any risk that they have reproduced violent logic needs to build it down because it gets Edward pro policies. Legal status tag, drop, fucking positive bad down. They got really absolute proofs that they gamify debate so much that we were saying we debaters in game politics that never do conflict and competitive access of debate. They say that fairness matters in different book club culture. We came to Spokane to engage in this market growth, only you care about competition. They say interim is key to research. It disproves their subjectivities disprove their subjectivity arguments to prove that research doesn't inform the way we engage and also all causes not a way things when we're trying to debate and put the outside say you can continue to oil the side. Obviously not true because you probably see our way to say when our argument is not our argument is about a model debate, not about a single debate. They say the ballot pick you vote, they can about opportunity. Now, every reason why fiat is bad, reason why you reject it to the proof, they classify debate. It means that I don't have to win that KPK debate because at the end of the day, because we are impacting the model debate on forward. They drop the trigger evidence to say that fiat is bad because this power debate because color rights, they get imagined way out of lines to drop that turns skill into the fifth core often created color process, psychological violence, and pacifies the engagement with actual moves on the ground because they cannot engage with them. They say debates about end quote is good and which at the above they say you look this is bad, drop that going down based off any risk is a D rule because it educates research practices which was addressed that when they are set forward proof that they recreate gender for violence. Now the alternative they have conceded a phony pick. The net benefit is framework and a racist justification because they have conceded that Georgetown CS is an all-white organization in this round and seeing agency to the various colors solve the case better, which is what the choice he said. Migrant Pence with the word he solved, the once he ended the link, dropping him evidence that Frank just said when migrant women are crowded out because they not competitive, which is the crossing stuff that happened, they gather in their own community to create their own way of living. Drop that Migrant Pence looks like bargaining knowledge for women in Venezuela that have the MAS movement, which was a oblivious social group that leading for employers engaged in graduate activism. And the only country right now that has worked in nature is the Mexican migrant talking about that piece of proof that we have a better idea about Latinx migrant socialism that we're taking our white socialism. This is what allows migrants to do what not when ice box on the door, which areas to avoid because people might ask papers to engage in community actions as opposed to everything else. Now they say market is seen as a threat to the capitalism. I largely did at work above.
Give me 1 second. I'm still like, if it helps, I'm starting the presentation. It's fine, I got it. Okay, let's try again. I have 40 seconds.
Now, I will do the permutation at the top. One, no permutation. Fiat is a disad to the firm because it proves that we can get insistent debate policy who might be not active, which is the Sati evidence. Also, drop the death in disad. You refuse to endure policy active with Microsoft interpretation because the permutation required migrants to output themselves at forward of visibility and policy active without migrants. You should reject the team or reject permutation because it proves they endanger the lives of documented people are forced them to show up into the courthouse to prove they got solved in your office. No perm can both medic each person to prove that they're equal as human and movements are not anti-migrant, including us all. Now, on Friday, 25 to encapsulate everything I did on Framers to prove that they view migrants as a nation, threat to the nation state, which is largely the aspects of identity love, and proves that they use extinction rhetoric to justify killing migrant people, which is bad. But also, I'm going to extend moment because they brought every reason why they're citing the IBCC, which is brought highly proof that they're being credit for migrant violence because they say that they're a great new carbon out, and they drop that. They allow for people I see the sharp and they say that we should deport migrants because they're still a job, they should get papers, which is not fucking access. Look, the 2 hours money due, 1 hour's ass. I don't want to hear anything real about it for them because they fucking lost.
Oh,
No,
no, it's three, I thought it was 355.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm gonna toss it.
I remember it was 357.
Yeah, so let's put it together. 355 for me.
lowercase k or just the k. It's all the same. Do you?
Is it straight down?
Pretty much. Okay. Well, framework before theory of power stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, is everyone good? This debate should be a question of endpoints. We are winning the report is better than ours, and we win the world, which is that GB and SRM provided CDRs, the public good is preferable to a world in which we are pessimistic about all forms of engagement with the state, and we win this debate. This is both offense at the level of substance and of framework. It is substance because it is the impact tragedy, the alternative rejection of state power, and embrace of pessimism, and it is offense on framework because their model of debate precludes these kinds of endpoint comparisons in the first place, which is detrimental to debaters learning about the world and making well-informed and framed decisions about what endpoints we should be striving for. No contestation to the premise that you and are that banning SRM is critical to prevent billionaires from fucking up the atmosphere and causing extinction, termination, shocks, and collapse of food systems and water cycles, or the fact that climate change is just an ongoing structural impact that affects the most vulnerable and only drawing carbon out of the atmosphere can prevent it, which means you know with certainty that the one axis approach to politics is necessary to prevent those impacts. So if we win that biological death is the thing you should care about, then you should vote affirmative Trump 2.0 frame at the top of the QNR is our argument, because it means that imagining better worlds and equipping debaters with the ability to see them is paramount. Anything else leads to fatalistic pessimism, which is weird impact turning as a reason to vote affirmative, even if we lose framework. Now, framework, go there now. If the 1AC presents a plan as approved with resolution, then the negative has the burden to rejoin that plan. This is an answer to the floating pig. It proves they don't get it because we should win the plan, and they have to win the plan is bad compared to a material competitive alternative that includes the entire plan. Then it is not competitive, so the Tunar does not get it. One, debates about inference are good. The world is incredibly complex. There are tons of directions in which we could go. Do we want a political economy that's structured by capitalism, or one that's structured by socialism? Do we want a democracy or authoritarian top-down rule? These are paramount questions of our generation, and debate is a unique space to test them. It is many things, but one of them is a game. CSU has conceded that the game produces competitive research incentives. So if we win our model incentivized debaters to grapple with these kinds of back-and-forth questions, and that is good. Voting affirmative obviously does not pass the plan, but at no point in this debate has that been our argument. Instead, it is that teaching debaters to grapple with back-and-forth questions of how we should organize society is good and beneficial. Debaters often go on to work in the fields that they debate over. Tons of people that debate on antitrust are now antitrust lawyers, and tons of people that debate on healthcare now work in healthcare. All of that matters, and the idea that it doesn't is incredibly neoliberal and depoliticizing. Yes, obviously, no single debater is going to leave here and radically change the landscape of energy policy, but those kinds of small marginal shifts at the margins are important, especially given they have conceded the entire thesis of the case debate, which is that trying to prevent SRM and solve climate change is a try or die type of situation. This also turns out the two arguments about migrants dying every day. Our model of debate uniquely equips debaters to learn about how to solve that. It's insufficient for CSU to establish that education about movements and starting points is good. One is that our model still solves it. They can read the K and read K absolutely compared state-based action to movement-based action, which also solves all their offense. Two, debate is not key to it. Debate is good for many things. So if you decide that they are right about their arguments about fiat and structural policy debate is bad for movement building, that it's not a reason to reject policy debate, but instead to embrace policy debate for what it does well, which is comparison of endpoints, and only our model can solve that. The second offense-based vicinity is infinite regress. Resolution is the only non-arbitrary basis for determining who wins the debate, and arbitrarily shifting that win condition after the 1AC's habit is unpredictable, which is the app behind because it erases diamonds of our speech time, and it's just the neck that always choose a new unilateral self-serving win condition. Yes, impacts to that. Fairness matters. This is the national debate tournament. We've all spent an entire year and the past 2 months in particular researching and preparing to come and debate at this tournament. That shifting the win condition after 1AC happens denies debaters control over their own destiny, which is the thing you should care about. Debate is many things, but the game is one of them, and that's the reason that we are all sitting in a book club right now, which is unique and answers their offense. The three are Clash is not bad. There's no internal link to psychic violence. They get the critique and critique apps under our model, which was their only internal link. There's also still a rule for migrant debaters, so we don't push out participation. Their internal link to this was about allowing Ks and KVK debates, which is a thing that our model allows for no metaphorical exclusion. Our model solves it because it allows all of the kinds of arguments that they have said are important above. No George Lee to sad debate. This debate has not been hyper competitive. We've been laughing and having a great time, but competition has still been a vital part of it because that is the reason that we're all in Spokane, Washington in the first place. So even if there is some amount of debate that's not competitive, it's at the core of what makes it a fun game to play. No any risk of a D-roll. They have not isolated a link, so there's no reason to pull the trigger on a D-roll. Floating pick argument is wrong, which is answered above. They don't get it because of our framework interpretation. The majority evidence was shadow extended at the bottom of the one in R, and it is answered by everything above. The IPCC link did not make a link argument in the one in R. They just said we cite the IPCC, so I don't understand why this is a bad thing or what the offense is. We're not a socialist movement, so they don't get a link to our socialist movement being bad. The socialism is simply our lens of analysis for how we understand the world. Go there now. Historical material perspective is best and better explains the impact. One is migration profit motive. Explains the border casting undocumented people as illegal, serves to create a group of people who's forced to work for low wages because their labor power is devalued, which serves the end of capital, even if some migrant violence is irrational, like we understood materially, or when anti-migrant racism is it's just why people capital is so division through propaganda, all of which was conceded by the 2 in R. We've not dropped the 1 in R psychology argument. Ben said it is the product of material factors, which is McDonald and Johnson evidence says that material factors determine libidinal ones, which there was no analysis of the 2 in R that drops back. Dropping card or offer names is relevant. We give a bunch of examples and reasons for you to feel confident that our material analysis is better and explains their impacts. Now, the last piece of academic is that seizing the state is good. One is climate change. They have no alternative explanation of how we solve it. So if you want to think it's a thing you should care about, you should. But forbid the same issue for SRM 3 is that it's good for migrant justice. Yes, the Trump administration is super fucked. We should all be horrified, but that's not a reason to retreat from placing demands on the state and insist on building a better world. Doing so just ensures that we are stuck under Trump forever, which means we have an obligation to keep fighting. That's especially true for anyone in this room who is not a migrant, which is an ethical frame for your decision. And tons of examples to demonstrate this. The creation of DACA. Trump might have tried to roll it back, but he got failed, and it was still a good program in the first place. Plier v. Dole, make sure that migrant children can access public school resources. The difference in the kids being allowed to go to school and not going allowed to school is obviously massive. Anything that you should care about, all of which is cruel optimism. Death outweighs its categorically distinct impact. And even if they were to win, it doesn't matter in some instances. The fact that it denies people agency over their own lives is a reason to prioritize it independently. Harm reduction matters, which is also a frame dropped by the 2 in R. So that's a reason to focus on reclaiming the state. There are no voting issues. Framework office is a reason voting on independent, tiny voting issues like this are bad. And they drop that out over unsolved without insufficient and unnecessary, which means it's a question of endpoints to vote affirmative.
Wait, PC, what color did you say you could only see yellow?
Oh, yellow, green.
Yellow, green, okay.
I think you highlighted it in yellow.
So I'm gonna re-highlight in yellow.
And I think Connie highlighted it in green though, so I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
all of our stuff's green, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I think everything was good in this room. I was able to standardize it on it too, so.
Okay, perfect. card doc is sent.
Thank you.
Card doc is got sent.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's all. Yeah.